facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear.
That Ventura had a choice and that she chose to participate in those sexual encounters.
Where she is entertaining other people in the bedroom. He enjoyed having the freak-offs.
She's being asked specifically about the drug use.
She is clearly excited about freak-off.
And shut it all down. I mean it. Because what just exploded inside that courtroom wasn't just messy, it was pure chaos carved into legal history. Cameras didn't blink. Reporters froze. And Diddy? The same man who built an empire. Off swagger? He snapped. Hard. Right in front of a no-nonsense federal judge who wasn't playing games. Now get this. No suspense, no warning shots. Prosecutors just slid a folder onto the bench and said, "Your Honor, we've got more messages." Calm tone, deadly impact. In that moment, the entire case tilted. And those texts? Boss, they weren't just a little shady. They were lethal. They blew massive holes in Diddy's public defense. Lies got exposed like live wires. And right there, with Cassie watching from her seat, the jury leaned in, and Diddy crumbled. His fists were tight. His face? Ghost white. And for the first time ever, the man who micromanaged his public image like a machine completely lost control of his own story.
Cassie Ventura on the witness stand for a fourth day in the federal criminal trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The defense continuing cross-examination this morning, confronting her with dozens of her own messages, many explicit, hoping to convince the jury she was an eager sexual partner who matched Combs' desires. "I'm always ready to freak off," one message said.
She was into the freak-offs herself and was like a willing participant and was into all the freaky stuff, and essentially that was the crux of what they were trying to do yesterday.
And do you think they proved that or not?
I mean, there's texts like that from 2009, "I'm always ready to freak off." There was some other texts where she was referencing like hitting him up about the FOs, is what they were referring to him. To me, like, yes, this doesn't look good, but at the same time, I think the timeline is crucial here. And these are texts from 2009, man. That was when they were first getting in the relationship. She was young. Obviously, they were in the honeymoon stage, and she was stoked to like, oh my God, I'm with Diddy. I'm living this lavish lifestyle. Of course, she's going to be saying things that she knows will curry favor with him to keep it going.
The courtroom didn't just freeze, it flatlined. You could hear a pin drop right before the gavel came down like thunder. The judge wasn't playing games. And baby, this was just the opening scene of day 4. Grab your screenshots, grab your popcorn, because what Diddy just walked into wasn't court. It was a public execution in slow motion. And boss, we're about to break down every gut punching. Second, the day was supposed to be ordinary, just another round of suits slinging legal terms back and forth, playing chess with case law. But inside that ice-cold federal courtroom, something dangerous was already in the air. You could feel it. Diddy looked calm, at least on the surface. Pressed suit, locked jaw, hands folded on polished wood like he had this in the bag. But across the aisle, Cassie Ventura sat still, unreadable, but her eyes were a storm barely held back. The room didn't feel like court anymore. It felt like a battlefield. 3 days in, Cassie had already painted a chilling portrait of silence, control, and psychological warfare. But Diddy's legal squad tried flipping the script, showing old flirty texts, spinning it all as freaky love play. That story collapsed in one brutal second. Prosecutors stood. No theatrics. Just a folder, thick, ominous, full of receipts. Your Honor, we've recovered a series of text messages between Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura. These were not previously disclosed. Boom. Earthquake. Every camera locked on Diddy. Reporters dropped, their pens mid-word. And Diddy? He blinked. Once. Twice. Then the panic leaked out of his eyes like ink. He knew what was in that folder. He knew. He gripped the table, knuckles white, chest rising fast. One attorney reached out. He jerked away. Then, out of nowhere, Diddy stood, shoved the chair back hard, took 2 steps toward the judge. Security flinched. The gallery held its breath. "Mr. Combs, sit down." The judge's voice cracked like a whip, but it was too late. Diddy had already lost it. The calm, calculated mogul, gone. What stood there now was a man unraveling in real time. Face flushed, jaw clenched, mouthing words no one could hear, but everyone felt. And it wasn't anger, it was fear. Because the texts were pure dynamite, manipulation, threats, domination wrapped in slick language. A reporter later said, "It felt like watching a mask rip off in front of the whole world." Then came the bombshell messages. "Cassie, please stop threatening me. I'm scared of what you'll do." Diddy. "You should be." The gallery gasped, loud, real, raw. Careers didn't just end, they exploded. Another message. "Nobody walks away from me. I made you. I can break you just as fast." Another. "This only works because you do what I say. Don't forget that." Screens glowed with text after text, and every one of them peeled back the glossy image Diddy had carefully built. This wasn't a courtroom anymore. This was a reckoning. And the real kicker? All of this came just days after Diddy cried on live TV, calling his breakup with Cassie mutual, respectful, and loving. Respectful? You sure about that, Diddy?
Ventura's attorney is optimistic outside of court.
Doing great. I said she was ready, and I think she's demonstrating that. The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear as the case goes on and Cassie's testimony goes on, and we'll see what the jury does.
And finally, we'll talk about Justin Bieber because he is finally addressing the Diddy stuff. There's been long speculation that somehow he's involved.
Surprised it took so long to address.
Well, he's clearing that up now, and also we'll talk about how people are scared for Justin Bieber because they think he's in a cult. They have to have it.
By the end of today, Cassie will be done. So they have all day today to ask her whatever they want to ask her.
Because obviously, she's about to pop, and that's like...
Which is totally understandable.
So if she did pop, if she did give birth, let's say the technical term, over the weekend, you know what would happen then, Devin?
I don't.
Mistrial, baby.
Why do you say that? What?
Because she's due back on the stand to give testimony, and if she can't give testimony...
No, she's giving testimony today.
I know. I was saying, what if...
Oh, like she gave birth and then...
That's why, that's the
delayed.
reason. If she wasn't pregnant, I don't think the judge would have said you have to finish by today.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Obviously. That's the whole, that's the whole crux of the argument.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You didn't explicitly, spell it out.
But Diddy's team is also pissed off because they're like, we want as much time as we can have.
Her voice is low at times. The defense did tell her if it's too much, I can read them, but there were many times early on this morning where she read some of those explicit details where she is clearly excited about freak off and talks about entertaining other people in the bedroom.
And what has Diddy's demeanor been in this cross-examination as well?
There was a moment where Sean Combs was nodding in agreement when they brought up a message that he sent her where he said, one of my favorite times of the freak-offs is when we're able to make love after. And then she responds, that's the same for me. Now, what's interesting here is that does match what she told prosecutors or what she's been telling the jury all along, which is she did this and she said, but she really wanted to spend time with him after the fact. So he was shaking his head at this message where he's almost, I guess, agreeing that he did say, without him saying it, he enjoyed having the freak-offs and then having sex with her after the fact. And her saying, I agree with you, I love having sex with you after.
Respectful? Nah, try terrifying. Because nothing screams love and light like threatening a woman at midnight and reminding her the price tag on her silence. But boss, the prosecution wasn't done slicing through the illusion. They took those venom-laced texts and lined them up with Diddy's red carpet fairy tales, award nights, sweet interviews, Instagram posts dripping with fake vibes. 1 minute he's telling the world, "I'll always love her." The next, he's texting, "Break our deal and you'll regret it." Just like that, Diddy's polished PR mask crumbled into dust. But the biggest blow? Still coming. The prosecution wheeled out a 6-foot timeline board, plastered with side-by-side proof, Cassie dazzling on a red carpet. And on the same night, getting a message that read, "Don't smile at anyone. I saw you. I always see you." The courtroom didn't breathe. The jury looked stunned. This wasn't just messy. It was a psychological operation dressed as a relationship. The defense scrambled like cornered mice. The messages were misread. They were flirty. It was toxic but mutual. But Diddy's own words shredded that narrative. And Cassie? She never flinched, never looked at him. Not during the blow-up, not during the evidence drop. Not even when they tried painting her as the villain. She sat straight, cold, focused. And the jury? They felt that energy. In that moment, Diddy wasn't a mogul, wasn't the boss, wasn't even a man in control. He was just another powerful abuser finally exposed. And boss, that's where part 1 ends. Texts glowing on the screen. Diddy, unglued. The courtroom rattled. And his empire? Starting to collapse from the inside. 15 minutes after the judge called for recess, the courtroom reassembled. But something had shifted. Diddy didn't look powerful anymore. He looked hollow. Eyes straight, jaw tight, breathing steady, but you could tell. The man was shook. Then, boom. The prosecutor flipped to the next digital file. On the screen, "You think you can walk away? Nobody walks away from me. I made you. I can break you." Gasps. A juror covered her mouth. Phones shook in reporters' hands. This wasn't the smooth-talking mogul from red carpets. This was dark. This was dangerous. And then came more. Time-stamped, brutal, threats at midnight, sweet talk by sunrise, a twisted loop of control. July 2018, just hours after a Glam Award show appearance, Diddy texted, "You should be scared. You forget who I am. Cassie, please stop. I don't feel safe." That combo hit the courtroom like a gut punch. The prosecutor zoomed in on the date, lined it up with viral couple photos from that same night. Perfect smiles outside. Private terror inside. The defense team panicked. Sidebar requests. Hushed arguments with the judge. Context, objections flying. But none of it hit. The jury? Not buying it. Cassie didn't move. When the screen lit up with the words, "Your silence has been paid for. Break it, and there will be consequences." She tensed, but didn't blink. A quiet hand from her lawyer on her arm. She nodded, unshaken. She came to fight. Outside, the internet exploded. Diddy unhinged. Cassie was right. Textgate TikToks, memes, YouTubers making breakdowns, people reenacting the courtroom like a Netflix series, and news sites. Headlines hit like meteor showers. Diddy's defense cracks open. Cassie's truth lights the courtroom on fire. Blogs, gossip sites, even fan pages went full FBI. Old interviews, old videos, all now layered with one brutal truth. Diddy's own words just buried him. But inside that courtroom, the prosecution wasn't done. They built a case that cut through glamour and exposed horror. Photos, events, hotel bookings, everything aligned with messages. Then came March 2019. Cassie smiled at a man at an industry party. Diddy's message, "I saw you. You smiled. Don't lie to me." Cassie, "He's a photographer I've worked with for years." Diddy, "Don't play dumb. I've got eyes everywhere. You can't hide from me." Silence. Real, tense silence. Even the courtroom reporters stopped typing. Then, for the first time, Diddy whispered to his lawyer. His lawyer? Quick head shake. "Don't react again." Too late. Everyone saw it. He wasn't the man running the show anymore. He was the man being dragged off stage. And just when you thought it couldn't go deeper, it did. The prosecution closed the session with a final soul punch message, a text from 2018. After an alleged physical altercation, Diddy wrote, "I'm sorry about last night. I lost control. It won't happen again. No excuses, just quiet, guilt." But for Cassie and the courtroom, it was all the confirmation they needed, because this trial just went from messy to monstrous.
The Diddy's team tried to do was show how they had breaks, and she was with Michael B. Jordan and was with Kid Cudi for a minute. But during that time period, she was still having freak-offs with Diddy, and I think that was them trying to show this wasn't a controlling thing. Here she was hooking up with other people. She just was into the freak-offs.
I kind of buy that, to be honest.
So
she is out of the freak-offs then. She is, when she's with Kid Cudi or allegedly with Michael B. Jordan, she's kind of out of the freak-offs if she wants to be. So why do you keep going back? I know it's kind of like a mental, she still loves Diddy. Diddy was jealous about her.
Oh, yeah, because that was another thing that the prosecutors were trying to do, is show that, that they had a very jealous relationship. She would get jealous when he's with Kid Cudi. Also, Kim Porter, Cassie would be jealous of Kim Porter.
Right.
Trying to show that, Cassie, you were in love with this guy. That's why you were jealous.
Right.
So, this was a real relationship.
It was just interesting to see Chris Brown.
I mean, he's always coming up somewhere, dude.
He is.
Chris Brown.
All right. Final story of the week. Justin Bieber is not a victim of Diddy. So this was one of those rumors or whatever that was flying around in the months leading up to the trial. And to be honest, there was quite a few rumors flying around. Was there minors involved? If no other celebrity was part of freak-offs, why are they in hiding? Are they in hiding though?
I don't think they're in hiding. I just think other celebrities didn't want to insert themselves. No one wants to be tied to Diddy one way or the other.
Even if you're at a white party, just having a lot of fun, one of Diddy's white parties, you don't want to be linked in any way.
No, and that's why all those people, there's a few people I think that have come forward and been I didn't see any of this freak-off stuff.
For that was it. The courtroom visibly recoiled. Even the judge paused, then asked for a recess, acknowledging the emotional weight of the evidence. And in that moment, the narrative flipped. This wasn't just about celebrity drama. This was about power, about fear, about a man whose words finally spoke louder than his music ever did. As the court broke for the day, Diddy slumped in his chair, his face pale, his hands still trembling. Outside, Cassie walked out surrounded by her legal team. Head high, shoulders back, no tears, no words. But the silence said everything. As day 4 ended and day 5 approached, the media world didn't sleep. Every outlet, podcast, and gossip channel was spinning, clipping, posting. But no spin could outpace the truth now. Diddy's courtroom meltdown wasn't just a trending topic. It was a moment of reckoning, and the ripple effects were about to hit harder than anyone expected. The prosecution had played their cards perfectly by revealing the texts after. Establishing a timeline of abuse, control, and manipulation, they delivered a masterclass in public takedown strategy. And as court resumed the next morning, the judge's attitude had visibly shifted. Where Judge Richter had been balanced before, occasionally siding with Diddy's team on procedural objections, now he was clearly done with the nonsense. His demeanor was sharper, colder, less tolerance, more order. Diddy, once untouchable, now sat hunched at the defense table, his lawyers frantically whispering strategy. You could practically see the panic simmering under his tailored suit. He wasn't preparing for defense. He was preparing for survival. And then came the next bombshell. Courtroom surveillance footage. The prosecution submitted newly obtained. Video, low-res but clear, allegedly showing Diddy pacing outside Cassie's hotel room on the night referenced in the "I lost control" text. The clip was time-stamped, and Cassie had already testified about that night. A violent outburst, followed by threats and a coerced apology. The defense, they tried to object, called it inflammatory. The judge overruled. The clip was played for the jury. There was no sound, but the visuals were enough. Diddy pacing, checking his phone, knocking, then pushing the door, disappearing inside. The clip cut off there, but the message landed. That wasn't just a timeline. That was a trap closing. The prosecutor calmly turned back to the jury and read the follow-up message. "Next time you disobey, I won't be so nice." Diddy's face went blank. The courtroom? Shaken? And Cassie? She stayed composed, lips tight, eyes forward. Her presence was ice cold, steel in the center of chaos. Outside the courtroom, public opinion was spiraling. Influencers who once partied with Diddy were deleting posts. Former collaborators were suddenly unavailable for comment. One prominent R&B star even canceled a planned feature on Diddy's next album, citing moral concerns. But the most unexpected reaction? Justin Bieber. After days of rumors linking him to Diddy's inner circle during the so-called freak-off years, Bieber broke his silence in an Instagram story. "I stand with survivors. Period." 3 words, but the internet caught fire. Did Bieber just turn on Diddy? He knows something. Surviving, Diddy incoming. And with that, the narrative widened. It wasn't just Diddy versus Cassie anymore. It was the industry versus Diddy. The brands, the networks, the silence from his celebrity friends, deafening. But back in court, it got even worse. The prosecution revealed that they'd subpoenaed more text data, this time from a burner phone believed to be used by one of Diddy's assistants. The messages allegedly showed coordination to manage Cassie's public image, to keep her soft-spoken, on script, and distracted with gifts. One message read, "Tell her we'll pay for the apartment. Just make sure she shuts up. I don't need another leak." Diddy's lawyers claimed these were taken out of context, but the prosecution had receipts. And then came the email, leaked via anonymous whistleblower, submitted under seal. But when unsealed that afternoon, it stopped everything. Subject line, "We have a problem." From Diddy's PR team to multiple execs, including a VH1 network liaison. The body of the email referenced Cassie's growing instability, narrative control, and damage containment.
This violence captured on cameras at a Los Angeles hotel ensued. You can see Combs kicking and dragging her. But the defense said Ventura's participation in the freak-offs was at times her idea, showing a text message from days earlier that said, "Baby, I want to FO so bad." "You proposed a freak-off," a defense attorney said. "You kept asking him." Combs' lawyers revealed he overdosed on painkillers in 2012, asking Ventura, were the worst years associated in any way with his drug use? "Yeah, I would say." The defense hoping to convince the jury Combs became violent not to coerce Ventura into sex, but because he was an addict. They argue he may have been abusive, but that he's not guilty of sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And then I think things might have just spiraled out of control, and at the end, do I think that she wanted to do those things? No.
No, I don't think she wanted to do it at the end.
But it
could have
does
been more explicit about it.
True.
I wish there was a paper trail of her being more, because then he'd be cooked.
Yes, I agree with that. And so these texts don't look good because it does make it look like she was into the freak-offs and all the freaky stuff.
The court wasn't just looking at Diddy the man, it was looking at Diddy the machine, the whole operation, the infrastructure of silence, the well-oiled system built not just to silence Cassie, but to protect the empire. The high judge's face tightened. The jury looked stunned. The question on everyone's mind wasn't, did Diddy send threatening texts? It was now. How far did the cover-up go? Because if his team coordinated suppression, that's not just abuse. That's obstruction. And baby, in federal court, that's a whole new storm. By mid-afternoon, Diddy's legal team requested a recess, citing emotional fatigue. The judge granted 30 minutes. During that break, Cassie's attorney gave a brief hallway statement. The truth isn't just coming out, it's pouring out. And we're just getting started. Boom. Internet. Explodes again. TikTok. Diddy covered it up. VH1 involved? Hollywood's silence is violence. Meanwhile, back inside the courthouse, the final dagger of the day was driven in clean. A text from Diddy to Cassie, dated late 2019, just after she signed with a new management agency. If you think you can outgrow me, think again. I gave you everything. I can take it all back. That line? That wasn't about love. That was about ownership. That was about power. And in front of a courtroom filled with legal analysts, media sharks, and an emotionally exhausted jury, it rang louder than any hit Diddy's ever produced. As court adjourned for the day, the judge gave one final reminder. We reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp, and we will begin the next phase, including witness cross-examinations. Prepare accordingly. Translation: it's about to get messier. Outside, Diddy was ushered through the back exit under tight security. He didn't speak. He didn't wave. His eyes stayed locked on the ground.
You know, they have their notebooks in their hand. They're coming in. They're very alert. And I think this is one of those testimonies where you have no choice but to pay attention and almost be flabbergasted, obviously, at some of what you're hearing, because it's not only just insight into somebody's sex life, but the details are disturbing at times, especially during that prosecution testimony when we saw some of the alleged abuse, or we saw pictures of her after a beating of some kind, according to her. But the jurors are definitely paying attention. I don't see anyone that's not keeping their focus on Cassie Ventura, and also I noticed them taking notes a lot of times.
And the children, as they were exiting court yesterday, two of the girls were seen crying. How emotional have they been in court?
Again, I cannot imagine if that was my father or somebody close to me up there and having to hear details of their sex life. Those are young women. They lost their mother, one of them, the twins. So no one can probably quite understand what it is that they're going through, but I think that's something that you think about on both sides, you know, to look at Alex Fine, which is Cassie Ventura's husband, and think about him having to listen to all that's being said about the type of woman that Cassie Ventura was versus the person that's expecting, you know, their third child together now. So whether it's Combs's family or Ventura's family that's there to support her, her brother and her husband, Alex Fine, I think it's difficult on both sides. Seen him taking notes from the beginning. I see him put his glasses on. He gets very close to the screen when they're reading some of those text messages. So he's paying attention.
Now, Ventura confirmed that she and Combs had conversations about a swingers lifestyle, but that the freak-offs, they were very different.
Yeah, so she talked about this idea where I guess Combs wanted her to watch him have sex with another woman. She said that happened 2 or 3 times, but that he mentioned it frequently.
Kim Porter came up today in testimony. What was the significance there?
The defense said early on that this case would be about infidelity, love, and jealousy. And this is where they brought that up today when they brought up Kim Porter's name. The defense asked Cassie Ventura, are you jealous, or were you jealous of Kim Porter? And Ventura sort of contemplated, but did get to this moment where she said, knowing that Combs spent holidays with his family, which meant with Porter, did bother her. And she admitted that. They also pointed out that there was testimony where she talked about being insanely jealous overall as a girlfriend. So, yeah.
We're hearing the judge wants Cassie off the stand tomorrow. Will the prosecution and defense get equal time?
Yeah, as long as there aren't any additional motions, I think that is the goal, to have her off the stand by tomorrow.
Why do you think that? What's the reasoning behind wanting her off the stand tomorrow?
In the very beginning, Rachel, they told us that she would likely be on that stand 2 to 3 days. So here we are.
Inside the courthouse, Cassie gathered her things, straightened her blazer, walked out the front door. The crowd applauded. Reporters shouted her name. She didn't stop, didn't smile, didn't blink. She walked like a woman who knew. The hardest part was finally behind her. And the truth was catching up fast. And just like that, the courtroom lights may have dimmed for the day, but this story? Oh no, boss. It's only getting hotter. You've just witnessed the unraveling of a legacy. Not from gossip blogs or shady sources, but straight from courtroom screens and Diddy's own damn text messages. What started as a defamation case has now turned into a full-blown demolition of an empire. The facade is cracking, the whispers are turning into headlines, and the mask? It's gone. But here's the part that should really shake you. If this is what's been exposed in just 4 days, what the hell is still hidden? What other secrets are buried in those vaults? How deep does the manipulation go? And most chilling of all, who else helped cover it all up? The industry is silent. Celebrities are ducking. And VH1? They're sweating in their corner offices, praying this storm doesn't reach the foundation. But let's be clear. The streets aren't staying silent. Neither are we. So now, it's your move. Was Diddy just exposed as the master manipulator he's always denied being? Was Cassie forced into silence for years, only to rise now and rip the lid off it all? Or is this just the beginning of a chain reaction that could take down more than just one man? Sound off in the comments. Drop your wildest theories. Defend your favorite, drag the rest. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that bell. Because in this courtroom circus, the next act might just be the one that ends Diddy's entire dynasty. We're not done here. The streets are still watching.